Welcome to Purpose After Sports, where we interview athletes to share their post-sport journeys and explore how they are reinventing what it means to compete. Today, we have the pleasure of speaking with Nicolle. She is a former D1 basketball player at Illinois State University and is now helping students succeed in higher education with over 10 years of experience in the game. She's worked in academic advising, retention, and student athlete development, and she now serves as the Associate Director of Undergraduate Advising at Marquette. Her journey from athlete to PhD in counseling psychology reflects a strong commitment to impact, mentorship, and resilience. Nicolle, very happy to have you.
Thanks for having me, Mickey.
Of course. We were talking a little bit before the podcast. I got the chance to hear you speak at one of my classes I was taking at Illinois State and just kind of drawn to not only your experience in sport, but what you do now and helping athletes. So I was just like, I need to get her on.
Yeah, no, it's great. I'm glad it all worked out.
So I want to take our audience a little bit through your college background real quick. Why Illinois State? Was D1 always the goal? What was it like to be a student athlete at that time?
So, I did not think I was going to play basketball in college until probably sophomore year of high school.
Okay.
I was a late bloomer in basketball. I did not play basketball until eighth grade. I was into other sports with my sister. My dad was our coach for softball and soccer, like all the community things.
Yeah.
And then when I grew 4 inches between eighth grade and ninth grade, I just got, tall and scrawny and uncoordinated and all the
Yeah.
things. And so I kind of just fell into basketball and I didn't know I was going to do it until I got more into like all my AAU stuff and started doing a lot of that traveling throughout sophomore and junior year.
Gotcha.
Um, but for me, throughout that process, when I kind of realized that Division 1 was an option, it was
Mm.
really exciting. It was kind of terrifying at the same time. I definitely was not one of those people that were just like, oh my gosh, I love the recruiting process. Let's go through that again. That wasn't me.
Yeah.
I think, and again, now, I mean, oh my gosh, like I'm about to outdate myself. But when I was going through that in the early 2000s, it was so different than today. So like, I don't even know how the kids do it now because it just
Yeah.
was such a business. And like, you're being talked to by a coach one day, and then the next day you're like, they're just totally ignoring you, or everything that they said to you totally changed. And so I didn't really enjoy that.
Yeah.
And so I think for me, Illinois State came along because I fell in love with the coaching staff. Coach Pinchton, Coach Norton, Coach Putnam, Coach Cox, they all recruited me. And I
Yeah.
think for them, like for me, I mean, I love Illinois State Institution. The community was great. The education opportunities were phenomenal. But I think for me, it was the coaching staff that made it like a family orientated atmosphere that I felt that support. For me, I'm from Wisconsin, so
Mm.
it was a 3 hour drive. I did not see myself. I thought I'd go to a UW school.
Yeah.
So going 3 hours away was actually a really big deal. And I only felt comfortable with it because the coaching staff really just instilled in me and my parents that I'd be taken care of and that, they look after myself and all my teammates as their own. And I think
Yeah.
that's what really drew me into Illinois State.
So talk to me about your experience through Division 1. Was it everything you thought it would be and more? Were there some rude awakenings when stepping on a campus?
So many things. I mean, homesickness was obviously like the first thing. Like I
Yeah.
obviously had to get through that. But for me, I mean, I think when you play sports in college and really any level, like I mean, obviously I'm D1, but like there's D2, D3, and NAIA, there's other options too. I
Yeah.
think when you're part of a team, that it's just a different experience than if you were just the general population of a student. And so, like throughout that journey, there were a lot of ups and downs. I tore my ACL freshman year.
Oh,
Then I had to
wow.
come back from that. I was able to finally, the whole NCAA rule changed after my sophomore year. So I found out after 2 years after tearing my ACL, I got a year back, which was kind of
Oh,
wild.
yeah.
And so I think throughout the entire experience, I just really always leaned on the coaches. I leaned on my teammates who am so blessed to still be in contact with today. We have a text thread. Everyone
Do
always kind
you
of pops on
really?
and do like, yeah, it's just so fun. Like those were like my main support, and like those were the
Yeah.
people I hung around with for 5 years. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just wild. And again, like I got to know some other, people in my classes, and I got to know some other students. But I think for the most part, you are in a lot of ways in like that, you're in an athletic bubble for the most
Hmm.
part. And I think having now worked on the other side of it and having been an administrator and an academic counselor within athletics, it's kind of like that athletic bubble sometimes is purposeful. Like there's a it's necessary for a number of different reasons, but I think it's also some negative drawbacks to that as well. So I've kind of now seen it from all different angles. But at the end of the day, I mean, my experience at Illinois State was great, and I to this day will always remain grateful to the coaches, to my teammates, and just that entire experience, the highs and the lows, because it really made me who I was and it prepared me for what I wanted to achieve after those 5 years.
Well, that leads me into kind of what I want to talk to you about next. With being a student athlete, were you able to start focusing on some things you wanted to do after college? Was it hard to balance? Like, where were you starting to turn, like, hey, this might be, basketball might end. What am I going to do next?
Yeah. I mean, and again, now this is me having like I worked with Division 1 students for over 10 years.
Hmm.
And I tried to instill in them what I did not instill in myself, which was at a certain point, the sport is going to be over.
Yes.
Whether it's at the end of your career at this institution or if you are lucky and blessed enough to continue to play professionally after, at a certain point, it will be done.
Hmm.
I did a terrible job. Like
Yeah.
I wish I could, like looking back, and that had nothing. I mean, the athletic department at Illinois State, they had workshops, and we talked about resumes, and we did like mock interviews, and we did all the things. And it's not that I didn't take it seriously. I just think when you're in a sport, you're just engulfed in that, and I think
Yep.
you're so focused on being the best that you can be for your teammate and living up to the expectations of the coaches. And then, I mean, again, it's comical now, but like back then I thought I was busy
Yeah.
and you're not. But like in that moment, looking back at it, I thought going to class and then going to practice and then needing to do homework at night, like that was busy.
Yeah.
And I didn't do a great job of preparing for life after sport. I stumbled quite a bit. Like the amount of interviews for just like mere internships that I totally messed up and I missed opportunities for because not that I didn't take it seriously, but I just didn't prepare and I didn't practice
Yeah.
interviews and those types of things. There's a lot that I would have that like looking back at now, I love to do things differently, but I have no regrets because I can't like remembering what like my perspective back then. I'm like I understand why I had it because you're so focused on the here and now, and I mean
Yeah.
in some ways your coach actually kind of wants that, so like you can't really go against that philosophy. But it
Hmm.
was tough for me, like that whole transitioning out. I mean, after my 5 years at at Illinois State, I was able to get my undergrad. I was able to get my first master's in sport management. And then I came home for 8 months and I lived with my parents, and I love my parents, but like I had to figure it out. Like I worked
Yeah.
some part-time jobs. I was like, what do I want to do? I mean, it was definitely a year of growth after finishing my 5 years at Illinois State. And I think that's pretty typical for a lot of people. There are some of those high achievers that right when they graduate and right when they're done playing, they're just like, I know exactly what I'm going to do. And they got that full-time job and they're
Yep.
just rocking it. That wasn't me. And I will own that. And I'm totally fine with that being part of my jersey because I figured it out eventually. And I think everyone does figure it out eventually, just they kind of do it at different timelines.
I agree and enjoy you being so candid about it because I feel that that is such a similar story to not only me, but so many other athletes. Because, like you said, it wasn't that I wouldn't have necessarily taken it seriously, but if you would have given me those tools as an athlete, I would have probably been zoned out or been like, yeah, this will apply to me eventually. But it's just not really like it's in the front of your head, but it's not. Like,
Right.
it's you're not focused on that because right now I'm an athlete and that's my life and that's all I can think about.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, obviously the transition was extremely hard for me as well. And then that year really rocked me after stepping away of just like, holy crap, what I have just not even thought about what is after this. So
Yeah.
I think that experience is important to know that it's not always, some people do. They have it figured
They
out and they're
do.
ready to go. And I love that. But some people, like myself, I would have sat in those workshops and been like, okay.
Right. Exactly. I totally get it. Yep. I could not agree with that more.
So after kind of stepping in out of sports and moving in with your parents, you got some of yours was a little bit sports related. You had a minor in food and nutrition
Yep.
and things like
Yep.
that. So did you know where you eventually wanted to go, or is this just something you were interested in?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, when I originally started at Illinois State, I thought I wanted to be like a personal trainer or maybe like a PT, like a
Gotcha.
physical therapist. But then, like throughout that curriculum, and I love my undergrad of exercise science. It was so fun. Like I was able to use everything that I was learning and relate it to what my body was going through as a Division
Mm,
One athlete, and
yeah.
so I enjoyed that experience. But really close to like probably like 3.5, 4, almost, at the end of that 4-year journey of finishing that degree, I just was like, that's not really what I want to do. And so because I tore my ACL, I had my 5th year of eligibility. So I
Yeah.
actually moved on to my master's in sport management, still there at Illinois State within the kinesiology school. And at that point, I wanted to be like an athletic director. But
Mm,
then I think throughout some of those internship opportunities that the master's program forced me to go through, I kind of just was like, I don't really think I want to do that either. And
yeah.
so when I graduated, I was so blessed to, again, have walked across that stage with my master's and I had this amazing piece of paper, but I still didn't really know what I wanted to do with it.
Yeah.
And so when I came back home, I worked at UW Milwaukee part-time as an academic advisor within the athletic department. So I was able to work really closely with the staff, a lot of student athletes helping, as a mentor, as an academic counselor, and using a lot of the tools that I was helped through at Illinois State.
Hmm.
I worked as a camp counselor for one of our rec departments in the Milwaukee area, just kind of, again, continuing with sports stuff. But I think throughout that period, Coach Pinchton, who was my head coach at Illinois State,
Hmm.
at the end of my 5 years, she actually moved and transitioned her and the majority of her staff to the University of Missouri. And so throughout that process, I was talking with her just on and off, and somehow I still don't know to this day. I think I don't know how she convinced me, but it was like a December, like I had been home for probably about 4 or 5 months, and it was like right before Christmas. I went down to Missouri. She just like, just come down and meet with me. Like, I'd love for you to come see the campus. I'd love to see you. And I'm like, oh, fine. It's 7-hour drive, but sure, why not?
I'll do
Sure.
it.
So I drove down there, and that little stinker of a Coach Pinchton, she set up interviews with my soon to be boss, my soon to be mentor, my soon to be professor, and I just fell in love with the campus. And throughout that entire experience, I just was like, okay, counseling psychology, being able to work with students, student athletes, all that stuff. So again, still don't know how it happens, but after almost a full year at home, I moved down to the University of Missouri and I was there for 4 years. I got my second master's in counseling psychology and then my PhD in counseling psychology. And I loved every second of it. It was really fun. But to this day, like how I got there is just really comical, and it just really goes back to this whole idea of an industry of it's not necessarily always what you know, it's who you know. And I had a
Hmm.
phenomenal head coach who continued to believe in me and set me up with some really great connections, and kind of the rest is history for 4 years at Mizzou.
And also, too, you being able to say yes to opportunities. I think that's a big thing that I talk about with athletes, and I'm sure you do too, because those opportunities, you want them to be as right as they can for you at the time, but just saying yes to everything just can open doors you have no idea to. And it's
Yeah.
hard to imagine when things seem so big. But if you just say yes, you just never know who you're going to run into or
No,
meet or be connected with. So
for sure.
I think that's a great story. So with you being down there, how do we get you back up to Wisconsin?
Yeah. So after those 4 years, I got my diplomas. It was honestly, gosh, was it? It was summer of 2015. I finished my
Okay.
dissertation. I was a hot mess there, but I got it done. I
Got
got
it
the
done.
piece of paper. I approved everything, and then I went to a conference at in Florida for N4A. It's like all the academic advisors who work with athletes across the nation. And
Okay.
that is where I met my soon to be boss here within Marquette Athletics, who was hiring for a position at Marquette. And just
Crazy.
throughout that conference, I found out about the job opening. And I essentially had my first interview with them in the conference lobby of just letting them like, get to know me in like a in person, essentially, like an impromptu. So again, saying like you said, saying yes to an opportunity, I kind of just was like, sure, let's sit down and talk about it. I asked them some things about Marquette. They learned more about me, and then probably month later or so, I went up to Marquette for the in-person interview, and then I got it and started in August.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a story. So, were you nervous at all to kind of approach the staff and be like, oh, I
Oh,
really want
yes.
this? Or you were like,
I think at first when I found out, I'll always to this day, Katie, who is still here in athletics, I
okay.
sat next to her during a workshop of that conference, and she said how that they were hiring at Marquette, and I just was like, oh my God, like that is 25, 30 minutes from my hometown. Like this is amazing. But in that moment, I think to your point, I was so nervous. I didn't really say anything. And
Yeah.
then probably, I don't know if it was a few hours or a day later, Adrian, who is the director of the academic center, posted saying, "Hey, we're hiring at Marquette. Please reach out if you would like to, sit down and meet with us." And so at that point, I was like, "Okay, well, it's kind of like that millennial, right? Like I hid behind my phone and I hit reply. I'm like, hey, like I sat next to Katie. I would love to come and sit down. And so I mean, if I hadn't sent that email, I mean, I don't know what would have happened, but it really, like the rest really is history because I said yes to that opportunity. I'm so grateful that Adrienne and her staff had they felt like they understood like that I was they took a chance on me and it was
Right.
so great and I was able to move back home. I had been gone for I mean yeah I was home for kind of like that 8 month period but I was really gone for almost 10 years. Like I
Yeah.
missed so many things with family and close friends and so it was just one of those things where everything fell into place so perfectly in like this 2 month period of the summer of 2015 and it just happened.
Been there ever since.
Yeah.
So with Marquette, now when I got the chance to speak with or hear you speak a couple months ago, we were talking about DISC.
Yeah.
And so where does DISC fit into your story? And would you mind explaining that to our audience? Because I think it's so important.
Yeah, so it was probably within, I think the first, oh gosh, like the first year-ish of working within Marquette Athletics.
Okay.
We had the opportunity to become facilitators for DISC through athlete assessment. And athlete assessment was founded by Bo Hansen, who was an Olympic athlete, and they are stationed down in Australia. And so I was able to become a facilitator through that experience. And using that information, I was actually able to use a lot of that with my teams that I worked directly with. So it was mostly women's basketball and women's soccer at the time that I just
Mhm.
kind of used a little bit in and out. But really, where disc kind of came for me more than just really within the athletic department was that I had the opportunity to start teaching at Marquette. And throughout that teaching experience, and again, because I had my PhD, I was able to teach grad level classes.
Mhm.
And I somehow, again, don't know how I got into the business school, but the counseling psychologist got into the business school, and they asked me to create a 1.5 credit class, and I essentially created a leadership course at Marquette solely functioning around DISC and using that 40-page report that you receive when you complete the DISC assessment. And I create like that was kind of like that 40-page report was essentially our textbook for
Mm,
this 1.5 credit class. It was an 8-week class. We usually either met like a hybrid virtually or like one day a week, like one
mm,
night, like a night class, like a 5:30 to 8 time frame. And it just kind of the rest is history. I love that experience. I loved creating the class. It was so much fun. But just the kind of like a lot happened throughout that period. COVID hit. I started a family.
yeah.
And I think throughout that, unfortunately, I had to step away from so much teaching because taking a night away from my kids, like it just was really hard. And
Yeah.
so then throughout that experience, Bo and Liz, who are with athlete assessment, I told them that I had to step away from teaching, so they were no longer being my guest lecturer in my class.
Mm,
They asked me to be a guest lecturer for them. So now probably anywhere from I don't know, like 2 to 5 times a semester, I'm able to jump into a class and talk for an hour about DISC. And again, like DISC being a behavioral assessment, which I know you're aware of, like it's all about being able to flex and change your behavior to get the outcome that you want.
yeah.
I use it every day. I use it with my colleagues. I use it when I'm obviously having these types of conversations and being a guest lecturer, but I even use it on my husband. Like I use it on my kids. Like being able to like flex your behavior and how you approach someone, how you approach conflict speaks volumes to not only I think the maturity that you bring to the table, but it really helps. Like, what type of an outcome do you want? Because your outcome is always going to be better if you understand how to approach someone in a
Hmm.
way that they're going to be comfortable. And DISC, that's like a real umbrella like perspective of it, but like that's what DISC helps you do. Is it helps you work with people better. It helps you communicate better. And it gives you all the tools to flex appropriately when needed.
Yes, because in that assessment, I will simplify it even more because you're way more knowledgeable. But you pretty much in that report that you're getting a breakdown. I mean, it gives you what your personality styles could be, a mix of them, percentages. It gives you job recommendations. It gives, like you said, tools on how to use it and work with people who might have opposites. And so I bring it up because I feel it's so important that I feel more athletes should eventually, hopefully, get more access to this kind of tool to learn more about what you are and give you, it's not that if you choose a career outside of the pages they give you, that's totally fine, but at least it gives you a basis of, oh, well, my personality is strong in dominance. Well, I might be an operations manager. That might be good for some. So it gives you an area to go to. And yeah, mine was, I guess it's pretty opposites. Mine is DS, so strong in dominance and
Hmm.
steadiness.
Yeah.
So two polar opposites, but
Yeah.
if you know me, that is exactly
Yeah.
who I am. So I just think it was fun to kind of see it and then see why it thinks that I am that way. And I was like, yeah, that
Yeah,
makes
no,
sense.
and I mean, it gives you, I always, I say it tools for your tool belt. Like,
Hmm.
it's not that you didn't know this information. Like, you knew certain parts of yourself and you knew how
Right.
to communicate with people. Like,
Yeah.
you know how to have a conversation. But when you get these additional tools for your tool belt to have appropriate conversations, and I know everyone always says, like, I don't like conflict, conflict's tough. Well, no one loves conflict. But if you have the appropriate knowledge to approach it appropriately and
Hmm.
efficiently, I think that the more you get a positive outcome of that conflict or even just any conversation, but especially outcome, I guarantee you're going to like build that repertoire and you're going to get more confident with having some of those conversations. And I think just a lot of this disc material, you hit it right on the head. It's like I wish I had it when I was an athlete. I
Hmm.
wish I understood from a Division 1 athletic perspective that I was able to have some of that knowledge back then. But I don't know what I would have changed differently. Haven't really given it much of a thought, but I think
Yeah.
I would have been able to probably address things differently, have a different perspective. I mean, again, like having a PhD in counseling and psychology now, there's a lot of things that I'm like, I should have had some different perspectives and some different mindsets when I played basketball. But I mean, you live and you learn. So here we are.
And you said that in the past you've used it with teams that are currently still, working
Hmm.
together, and you can even see sometimes why it makes sense. Oh yeah, that personality makes sense for, I'll use basketball, like a point guard, or that personality makes sense for somebody who's a guard or something like that. So even learning how to work with your teammates if you're currently still in a sport too, it can be beneficial.
It was so much fun. I'll always remember the one time I had a meeting with the women's basketball team, and at that point they all had their disc style results, and
Hmm.
I put them in. It's like the four corners activity. So there was the corner of all the D's, all the I's, the S's, and the C's, kind of in their own little groups. And again, like every I is different. Like it's another whole thing. So it's not about putting them necessarily in corners or boxes, but just for the purpose of that activity, it was really nice for them to see, like, oh, like that's why, like, Danny is D for dominance. She's a little more direct. So when she's yelling at me on the court, it's not because she doesn't hate me.
Right.
It's because that's just how she communicates. And
Hmm.
for us, it was really great for me to kind of have some of those conversations with them, and they could see kind of how certain teammates were communicating with one another. I think,
Yes.
especially as a female, sometimes you get a little touchy based on how someone approaches you. And I think we
Yes.
were able to bring down some of those barriers because, in the heat of a moment, in the middle of a game, I think sometimes it's really helpful to have that reminder of, okay, they're not yelling at me because they're upset. They're like that's them communicating. And like
Yeah.
even so someone like yourself, like someone who's really high in S in steadiness, they're probably a little more harmonious. Like they don't probably want to rock the boat as much.
Right.
Sometimes people are like, well, they don't care, like they're not getting excited. Well, actually
Mm,
they care a lot. You just can't see that, so you need to understand what they're
yes.
bringing to the table, and don't come to conclusions that someone isn't invested in the process just because they're not a really high I or a high D jumping off the wall and getting really excited. So I think that knowledge was really helpful for that group that I worked with who were all currently on a team trying to figure it out of how do we work well together on and off the court.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's huge. Knowing, and obviously it'll relate to who you work with later in the workforce. But yeah, knowing that, like you said, an S, I can get in trouble with that in the real world of like, it doesn't seem like I'm excited and things like that. But internally I might be, but I'm just like,
Yeah.
real smooth
Yeah.
most of the time. But it's like, but I have friends that I think I draw the opposites in me because they are the more like
Mm-hmm.
outgoing and super bubbly. So it's funny to see that, and I use it now too in my
Yeah.
life. I'm like, where would you lie in the
Mm-hmm.
disassessment?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, and I think it was always really funny when anytime usually coaches would do it along with the team. And
Hmm.
it was always kind of comical because there's some coaching staffs who really just hire people just like themselves.
Mm.
And that can
Yep.
cause some issues because then you have so much of one style. And
Yep.
so it was really kind of fun to dive deeper into that with the coaching staffs as well so that they understood. And I think that just transitions really well into a lot what I do with classes now, and making sure you understand that when you're later on in life in a career, make sure you're looking for people who bring a style that you don't have, that you don't have a
Yes.
strength in. You don't, I mean, I'm a high I, I'm an ID, so like I
Mm.
would love to be able to like select all the people to go do happy hour with and all the stuff, but like that's not gonna get us like accomplished really well. We'll have a lot of fun along the
Right.
way, but understanding like what you bring to the table and how you should hire appropriately so that your team is well rounded.
Yes. No, that makes it makes a lot of sense. Kind of steering into that and
Yeah.
helping athletes, what are some struggles with the athlete community that you work with now that you see most prominent with them? Is it life after sports, or is it another realm in maybe the student athlete?
Yeah. Well, so I've been So I was in the athletic department here at Marquette from 2015 to 2022.
Okay.
So the last almost 3 years now, which is kind of crazy, I am now on campus and
Okay.
I'm more working within like student success and undergraduate advising.
Gotcha.
But I mean, I still have connections with the student athletes. They're not as many now because every year, every additional year that goes on, there's less people that I know in
Yep.
the in regards to the athletes here at Marquette. But I think for me, the what I see that the athletes are will always continue to just have not I don't want to say barrier. I think more challenges of just wanting to like be aware of is that the time demand is always going to be there. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it's always interesting the coach and the culture that that coach creates.
Yes.
You're either setting the student up for success to take ownership themselves, or there's some coaches and the cultures that they create intentionally
Mm-hmm.
so that they control their players' schedules. And I think a barrier or a challenge for a student who had their coach and their support staff control their everyday is that
Yeah.
when basketball or their sport is up, it's really challenging to be like, oh, I need to now do what on my own? And
Yeah.
so it's really like I think that's really tricky. And again, I totally understand why coaches do it certain ways because there's so many things that these athletes have to get done and all that stuff, but I think that's a big challenge for them. And then I think right now there's a huge challenge of the whole NIL stuff.
Yeah.
Of like, it's obviously really exciting, and there's now this idea of being able to make a little bit more money for some of these athletes. But with that comes also a lot of challenges and more things that you have to learn. And if you at here at Marquette, they've hired positions to help educate the student athletes here on what NIL is, what the collective means, all of those types of things. But not every institution does that. And so some of
Yeah.
these athletes are missing out on these really amazing opportunities. So those are just like a couple things kind of off the top of my head.
I like the dive into the NIL too because I mean that wasn't a thing when I was in school, but it's huge and it's going to continue to be regulated and get bigger and just a whole sorts of levels. But I was speaking with someone a couple weeks ago and she gets the opportunity to go into schools and speak about financials to these athletes because I mean it's huge and it's unfortunate, like you said, that hopefully more universities will get on board with just a little bit of education could go a long way because it might be the only time that they get it, especially during school when receiving that much amount of money or opportunity for money.
Exactly.
So I think hopefully we can start talking about that. It's taboo, but we need to because we need we got to educate, you know? So
Yep.
I think that's huge. Um, what do you think? Do you have a way in your life now that you're able to keep sports still close to you, or are you kind of that's a part of my past? I know you have a growing family. Do you know sports? Are they getting into anything like that, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think sports is always, I mean, I'm competitive. So like sports will always be a part of my life. I think when I stepped away from Marquette Athletics here, it probably took me a year or so to
Yeah,
like I mean, it was like I still to this day I still go and drive. I still park in the same spot I've parked in for the last almost 10 years.
oh
Like,
my
so like
gosh.
even though I no longer walked to that same building, I walk past that building every day coming to my new
Yeah,
office. And so it was 100% an adjustment. But I think for me, sports will always be a part of my life. It's definitely less now. I
yeah.
love my time of having worked in college athletics as an administrator for 10 years.
Hmm.
It was phenomenal. I have zero regrets on doing that. But I think for me, I realized, and I think COVID, I had my first son in 2020, literally like a week before the world shut down with COVID.
Wow.
And I think I saw very quickly how much I did not want to take him to study hall nights and recruiting visits and events at 7 o'clock at night. There's a
Yeah.
lot of people who do that. And I think that that's phenomenal. And I think it's amazing. And to each their own, everyone likes to do it differently. I just didn't want to do that. And
Yeah.
so I think throughout that experience, this really amazing opportunity on campus opened up, and kind of that's how I made it over here. But without a doubt, like sports, even so, we have a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 4-month-old, which is kind of
Oh my
crazy.
goodness.
And our 5 and 3-year-old, I mean, they love basketball, they love golf. They're playing t-ball right now on Wednesday
Yeah.
nights, and if you want to watch something comical, it's 3 to 5-year-olds hitting a ball and trying to field that ball. It is quite funny. And so like it's always going to be part of what I do.
Yeah.
Um, my, again, I have like this grand idea that all three of my boys are gonna be Division 1 athletes, but I think it's a little too early to tell on that. But it's just really fun. Like it's always gonna be part. I'm intrigued to see what type of mom I'm gonna be on that sideline. I've
Yeah.
intentionally tried not to be a coach because
Hmm.
I want them to be coached by others, because I don't know if I would be good in that dynamic. But without a doubt, like the Skoien family will always be in touch with sports of some sort. And my husband went to Marquette as an undergrad,
Okay.
and I obviously am now still working here. And so our 5-year-old George and our 3-year-old Lewis, they love everything Marquette. So they'll come to get like, so
Uh,
anytime they want to do things, like we'll drive to campus and we'll do fun stuff and we'll go to the games, and I still have all my connections within the athletic department, so I can come and go as
yeah.
needed. But without a doubt, like sports will always be a part of our life and my life. It's just in a capacity that's healthier for me and my family
Yes.
compared to the 24/7 text messages and phone calls at 9 o'clock at night. Like I'm just not needing to deal with that anymore. And for me and what I want for my family, that's what worked best.
I like that reflection too because you have to find that balance. Sometimes it's the sport is not no longer in your life, and sometimes it's just finding where it needs to be, where that passion can be, and whether it's coaching or working with student athletes. So
Yeah.
I appreciate that. So we started a new segment
Mm.
on our thing. So we're gonna finish with our fast break segment.
Okay.
We're just gonna ask you some rapid fire questions, and
Love
you
it.
have to say first thing on your mind, no
Okay.
thinking. They're pretty easy though. So, first question is best pregame song back in the day.
Oh, Mickey, I am terrible at songs. Like I don't know any titles. Like I
What were
wish.
you listening to?
Okay, this is so funny you say this, because to this day it is an awful flaw of mine, because as the team, like we'd always, like, everyone got to choose a song
Yeah,
to
yeah,
play in like the 60 minutes of warm up,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and I just always looked at Ashley or Ashleen or Christy or Brooke or Brea, and I'm just like, can you just pick my song? I don't, so I can't even answer that. I mean, I will always go to Thunderstruck. It's a classic, you know.
Okay.
But other
Okay.
than that, I mean, you're lucky I know who Beyonce and Britney Spears are. So,
We'll cut that part out. They don't deserve that treatment.
thank you.
Oh man. Thunderstruck is a good one. I can get behind that.
Okay.
All right. Do you drink coffee? Go to coffee order.
No, I don't drink coffee.
All right. What
Sorry.
about what do you drink anything besides water?
I have just turned into a bubbler girl. The bubbler
Really?
water.
Okay, I gotta get behind
Gotta
that.
try bubbler. Yeah.
Okay. Have you read a book or podcast that's impacted you lately? Or listened to a podcast, I guess.
You're gonna hate me. I don't. Everyone keeps asking me what books I read. I'm like Wheels on the Bus, Coco Melon. Um,
No.
what do I listen to in the car? I call my mom and my sister and my friend Lindsay, and I'm like, just tell me what's happening in your life, because I've got 20 minutes until all chaos breaks loose. So,
Hey, that's I guess kind of a podcast. That's my thing now is in adulthood. My friends know like, okay, I have 10 minutes, so I'm going to the next thing. Like, tell me everything I need to know in 10
yeah,
minutes, and
yeah,
then we'll debrief in like a week.
yeah.
Um, let's see. All right. What about any non-kid? What are we watching right now? Any non-kid shows? Do you get a chance to watch Netflix?
Okay, so my husband and I were watching that The Last of Us on HBO. It's like
The
season
last.
2. It's
The
like a
Last of Us.
sci-fi.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
pretty good. I mean, it's a little gory, but you know.
That's probably why it hasn't come up on my thing. I can't do
Mm.
the gory. All right. Favorite game day snack or post practice meal?
I mean, back in the day, it was always a good pizza. Like I
Really?
remember
Okay.
after games, like when you could like get your own like legit size pizza in a box that was waiting on
Yeah.
your in the on the bus on your seat, that was like winning the lottery. That's
I
great.
know the full size. I'm like a garbage truck too, so like everyone's like leftovers. Me
Yeah,
too.
for sure.
Embarrassing but true. One food trend that you think is overrated.
Well, it's not a food, it's Diet Coke. Like everyone's all about drinking Diet Coke. And it's not
Mm,
necessarily a food, but I'm not a soda drinker, but like so many people here have like cans of Diet Coke.
yes.
That's not my thing.
Okay, good answer. And what is one thing every college athlete should know about nutrition?
Never skip breakfast.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's like the one of the most important. It really is the most important meal of the day. Like it gets you going.
I would agree. Even if it's small, like something,
Even
put something in your
something. You
stomach.
gotta get something in your system.
All right. Well, I just want to thank you. We have one more question I ask every guest, and it would be if you could give a piece of advice to your younger self or something you think would resonate with former college athletes, what advice would that be?
Honestly, I think for me it's really cliche, but it really is live in the moment.
Yeah.
Because without a doubt, I mean, sometimes it feels like it was just yesterday when I was on that team at Illinois State, living day to day with those 12, 13 other girls,
Yeah.
and I miss it, and you are not guaranteed tomorrow. And, there's so many injuries and there's so many things out there. Like, just live in the moment and enjoy it as best as possible because time flies by. Over here with a 5 year old, a 3 year old, and a 4 month old. Like, I never, ever thought. Like, just time flies by. Like, you gotta
Yeah.
live in the moment, otherwise, you're gonna regret always thinking about the future, like wanting to, okay, this is a long winded answer, but just, I think for me, I was really lucky that I learned this a few years ago. And it's don't have that mentality of, oh, I just have to get through today. I
Mm,
just have to get through this week. I
yep.
just have to make it to the weekend. Because all of a sudden you're going to look back and you're going to be like, where did that entire week go? Where did that entire month go? So you just got to live in the moment as much as possible because otherwise you're going to miss all the great things happening around you.
Thank you for sharing that. I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for
Of
taking time out
course.
of your
Oh
day
my
to
gosh,
come
this
on.
was a pleasure. I really hope that my lack of technology skills did not mess up any of the audio things here.
If you enjoyed episodes like this and want to watch more, make sure that you subscribe, hit those notifications, and we will be back.